What if the war between you and your sibling wasn't born, but planted? What if the rivalry, the jealousy, the endless comparisons weren't accidents, but a system? In narcissistic families, conflict isn't random. It's cultivated. Division isn't dysfunction. It's design. Because as long as siblings are fighting each other, they don't notice who created the battlefield. In these families, roles are assigned, not chosen. One child becomes the golden one. Another becomes the difficult one, the lazy one, the ungrateful one. Sometimes there's the invisible child who seems forgotten. The narcissistic parent doesn't raise children through love and guidance. They control them through comparison and competition. They create an artificial scarcity of love, and they make you believe you have to earn it. You've probably heard phrases like, "Why can't you be more like your brother?" "Don't tell your sister. She wouldn't understand." "You always mess things up." These aren't just casual remarks. They're cracks in trust. Cracks that make you turn your eyes toward your sibling instead of toward the parent who created the cracks in the first place. Imagine growing up in a home where love is not given freely. It's handed out like a prize. You never know what will win it or when it will vanish. One day you're praised. The next you're humiliated. One moment you're good. The next you're a disappointment. So what do children do? They adapt. They learn to fight for attention. They start comparing themselves to their siblings. They start believing their brother or sister is the obstacle, not because they're selfish, but because they're human. And when love feels scarce, competition feels like survival. This is not just dysfunction. It's what we might call trauma economics. Because in these families, love is not a gift. It's an auction, and the prize is temporary closeness at the cost of real connection. This isn't chaos. It's strategy. Divide and conquer isn't just a political tactic. It's a parenting style in narcissistic families. As long as you're competing with your sibling, you're not confronting the parent. As long as you're comparing, you're not connecting. And as long as you're blaming each other, the system stays alive. That's why unity is so dangerous for a narcissistic parent. Because unity creates clarity. Clarity brings questions, and questions threaten the illusion they depend on. In almost every narcissistic family, you'll see patterns. The golden child, the pride, the chosen one. The scapegoat, the problem, the one who carries the blame. The invisible child, overlooked, ignored, left in the shadows. These aren't reflections of who the children truly are. They're roles, carefully assigned to keep balance and control. And sometimes they even switch. One day you're the favorite. The next day you're the disappointment. But the message sinks in. I'm never enough. I always get overlooked. I have to be perfect to be loved. Children internalize these roles. They grow up thinking the script was reality, when in truth it was just manipulation. If you grew up in this kind of system, you probably remember moments of resentment. She thinks she's better than me. He always gets everything. Mom always loves her more. But here's the truth. Those thoughts weren't born in you. They were planted. They were echoes of the script you were forced to perform. Your sibling was never the true rival. They were another child, trapped in the same performance, just given a different role. This is what hurts the most. The person who could have been your ally was turned into your opponent, not by choice, but by design. And now, as an adult, you don't just carry anger. You carry grief, and often guilt, because you realize the person you fought against was also a victim of the same system. Think about your earliest conflicts. Were they really about the toy, the grade, the seat at the table, or were they about something invisible, something that felt like survival? And here's another question. If you had been the golden child, and your sibling the scapegoat, would the story have been different? Probably not, because it wasn't about personality. It was about design. This isn't about blaming your sibling, and it's not about blaming yourself. It's about recognizing the design, because until you see the system, you'll keep seeing the sibling as the enemy. But once you see the design, it begins to lose its power. Even years later, even with therapy and distance, you might notice something tighten inside you when your sibling walks into the room. That tension isn't personal. It's residue, leftovers from a system that taught you to compete instead of connect. But residue can be cleaned. Patterns can be rewritten. Steps to rewriting the pattern. 1. Name it. Acknowledge what really happened. Say it clearly. We were pitted against each other. It wasn't our fault. 2. Remove the labels. You were never the lazy one. You were never the golden one. You were never the invisible one. You were a child forced into a role. 3. See your sibling as an ally. They weren't your rival. They were cast in the same play, just reading different lines. 4. Separate the parent from the bond. The conflict wasn't truly about you and your sibling. It was about the parent who created the battlefield. Love is not supposed to be conditional. It's not supposed to be a prize. It's not supposed to be earned by competing with family. What you lived through wasn't normal. It was trauma. But trauma can be named. And when you name it, you take back power. Because the truth is, your sibling was never your enemy. The enemy was the story. The real threat wasn't sitting next to you at the dinner table. The real threat was the system above you. And as long as you fight your sibling, the system lives. But once you see the mechanism, it begins to crumble. Yes, the residue remains. Yes, some relationships may never fully heal. But the most important shift is this. You no longer mistake your sibling for the enemy. The enemy was always the story. And now, you get to write a new one.